Hello, everyone. Hello to all my community and all my women that are here on the podcast, Thinking and Dreaming Big. I'm so glad to have you here for another episode. Today is episode number 5. And because it's number 5, I kind of reflected on this energy of the number 5 because for me, it's the number of change. And so it got me thinking, what is the thing that really led to the biggest shift and the biggest change recently in my life. And that's how the subject came up. Um, I have actually really changed my relationship with receiving. And I wanted to share some of that today because I'm pretty sure if you're in this podcast that you're familiar somehow to the energetics of receiving. I kind of feel like it's not your first time and that you've already probably done some healing around that. So I wanted to just share more kind of like the practical tips and guidance around just keep on improving, how to keep on improving this relationship that you probably have with receiving that you already, let's say, are working on. And I named the episode An Honest Conversation because I just want you to, after this episode, try to be as much honest as you can with yourself and some of the signs that you've been seeing in your life and trying not to judge them. I'm going to explain how, like, we can just pinpoint in our life, like, where we actually stand with receiving. But I just want you to be honest and do not think like maybe like me a few couple of months ago that even sorry that because you have already um done this work of being conscious of your limiting beliefs with receiving that there's nothing left that is appearing in your life. I just want you to be honest and just open yourself to receive the guidance and seeing how you can take this a step further. So we're going to talk about different topics. I have my notes here if you're watching the video and you see me looking down. And I also have some of my tea because I feel a little bit of a cold. So if I have to pause sometimes, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, so the first thing I wanted to share is somehow I feel our relationship with receiving is even harder than our relationship with giving. Um, and it sounds so counterintuitive because I think everyone in this community, I just sense the energy of this very driven women, very dedicated, and I feel like you all know your worth, but somehow when it comes to receiving, there's a lot of conditioning, meaning like maybe you feel like there are some periods of your life or some areas of your life where it's easier for you to receive than others. And I feel this kind of, probably for most of you, a very, I don't know if unbalanced is the word, but maybe just a lack of reciprocity between everything you're giving and how dedicated you are in your business. If you're an entrepreneur, probably if you landed here. But if you're not, it's okay. Just how much you give in your life, and maybe how the, let's say, the little imbalance is how much you're getting back from all this work that you're putting out. So I want to start with the first point, which is to really go a step further and diving deep into bringing awareness to that. Because when we think about receiving, sometimes it's just like the concept. You have to be better with receiving as a whole. But to really improve our relationship with receiving, we need to think of it like just to give a visual example, but like a pie chart where we start to separating different areas of our lives and kind of like rating, let's say, if we can talk about rating, but let's say from 0 to 10. I like to do this exercise a lot. And just seeing the first number that comes up when I think like, okay, what is my relationship with receiving in my business? What is my relationship with receiving gifts? I don't know, like for my birthday or Christmas. What is my relationship with receiving um, unexpected blessings or money? What is my relationship with myself? That was a big one that I was forgetting. So whenever I would purchase something for myself, how does it feel? Um, do I do it often? Do I not do it? So don't forget when you're starting to bring awareness to these areas of your life, don't forget to include this category of seeing how you receive from yourself, even though it sounds a little weird to say it like that. It's really important. So maybe how you receive love from yourself, but I think it's easier to see how the behaviors play out when you take the example of buying something from yourself. So the first point is like in the exercise of what's the word? Unlearning maybe what we've known about receiving and how we've been playing with that recently. I want you to think of really profoundly look and bring awareness to the difference um, of your relationship with receiving in different areas of your life. So I just want to give a few examples of what you need to do and how I've noticed in my life so it can be very easy to understand. So, for example, when it comes to my relationship with my business, I started to analyze what happens when I receive a sale. I used to run a candle business and I just reflected on whenever I had a sale that was unexpected or expected, how would I actually react? And I would love to say that I was very happy, but somehow, if I'm being honest with myself, the first feeling that I had was more a contraction or just a little bit of stress because I was I was thinking obviously it doesn't mean I wasn't happy to receive a sale, but I was immediately thinking of all the things that were going to bring me stress with that sale. So, for example, maybe the client not liking the candle in that case that they purchased, or maybe me having to work a little harder and late at night because the stock wasn't ready, or maybe having this little anxiety of getting negative feedback about the shipping um, duration and the shipping, everything related to shipping. So, how fast I was shipping, the shipping boxes I was using. So, again, I don't want to say that I wasn't happy. I just want to say that as I was bringing more awareness, I was noticing that receiving in my business was not necessarily for me 100% like yes, physical yes, and emotional like yay. I was like yes, but oh my god, now I have to. It's like I have to deliver somehow. So that's kind of like one example. So I just want you to first do the exercise of rating, like the first intuitive number that comes to your mind when you're thinking like how comfortable you are with receiving your business. So um, I think it was a 6 or a 7, something like that for me. And I want you to do this with other categories. So we mentioned, for example, the gifts category. I was very comfortable with receiving gifts, so it was a 10 out of 10. And for the category of, for example, like buying myself things, I ended up with a 4. It kind of like surprised me, but again, being honest with myself, it ended up being a 4 because I noticed that when I was purchasing things for myself, when I would get, this confirmation order of congrats, your order is ready, it's on the way, I would just like not ignore those emails, but I would just do the purchase and somehow run to do something else. Like just it was kind of like my brain was a little bit like escaping the the moment I was like paying. I was like rushing to do something else. And the other thing I noticed as well is that when I would receive, for example, if I had ordered, I don't know, let's say a journal, because I love journals. Sometimes it would take me an hour or two to open the box with the order, or sometimes a day or two. Like I would just have it here in my office, or just I would have it in my kitchen, and I would be happy to know that I had something for myself, but I wouldn't open it. And now that I reflect back on it, is that part of, I think, my relationship with receiving gifts. I just realized that maybe there was a little bit of guilt of how I spent that money, or overthinking if it was the right thing to do at that moment. Um, if it was really, um, I think I was past the overthinking whether it was necessary, or like, how do we say that? This duality between I really need it like literally for survival. I don't know, like food. Like, is this really necessary? I think I was past that. I knew that it was good to buy things for me just to, for joy, and to cultivate kind of like pleasure in my life as well. So I wasn't feeling guilty for buying something for myself, but somehow I was feeling guilty for letting that joy express itself. And that's also something that you can look for this pattern if it happens. But I noticed I wasn't necessarily like mentioning it to my partner. If I had purchased something for me, I was kind of like keeping it private. And also when I used to received what I had purchased, so let's take back the example of the journal. And yeah, again, I found there was part of me that was a bit closed off and not let myself fully um express that joy, and just sharing it, and just like having that excitement. uh it's never black or white, I feel, but there was this dual energy anyway. But I did end up with a 4, because if I had been, let's say, more if I had been less honest with myself, I would have put maybe an 8. But anyway, it's not about like the numbers, but it was just a way of me acknowledging that when it came to receive from me to me, I had some work to do. And when it came to receive in my business, I also had some work to do, to again look at this conditioning that I had with what comes with something good? What can come with something good? What are the consequences that I don't want to come? So the first point is bringing awareness, um, thinking of it as categories and observing the signals and being honest with yourself and how you stand with your relationship with receiving. The second point is I did a huge work to rebuild my nervous system and my ability to be this sort of like receiving container or wealth container. Um, because as I was doing the first exercise of bringing awareness, I was noticing a lot of emotions coming up. And I think in the past, maybe this is something that you can relate to, but when I used to do this awareness exercise in the past, I was very focused on kind of like the mind part of the exercise, or what was coming up from a more mental perspective. So I was journaling on it, but um, I was not very conscious, or at least putting the focus on the body part and the emotions and the signals I was receiving. And there was a huge shift when I started to do that, because I really noticed that it was a physical sensation. Like I would get a sale, and then immediately my body would kind of like contract a little. And these are signs that I know that, I mean, they've been always there. But when I started to put the attention on how my body was reacting, um, I got a lot of information, valuable information. So the second thing I would say is really focus on your nervous system. I then use breath work. I used to close my eyes. I used to put one hand on my heart and just repeating to myself, like, it's safe to receive a sale. It's safe to receive more money. And I think I think you'll notice that your body really needs that feeling of safety, and it's independent from the work that you do, like on a conscious level. So obviously, I think none of us like um would say, like, from a conscious point of view, that it's not safe to receive, I don't know, an extra um 5K in revenue, but really from the body perspective. Because, I mean, you need to think of it as just stored emotion. So kind of like your conscious mind is working on the present, your subconscious, that's a whole different conversation that I think you kind of know a little bit, has all these limiting beliefs. But for me, the body, like, my mind was in the present, my subconscious, well, a bit of everything, but mostly the past. But then my body was not in the present moment. Like, my body was actually in the past. So, of course, for my mind, it's amazing to receive more money in my business, but my body was reacting from a past version, from past emotions, from past guilt around the way I used to handle my finances, or past guilt around expressing my joy, or past guilt around receiving with ease. So I just want you to maybe keep that in mind and think that when you're going to do this work with your body, it's going to be stored emotions that come up, like the contraction that you feel when someone is purchasing from you or asking you for a service is not, it's a result of the limiting beliefs of the subconscious mind, but it's also just a stored emotion in the body. And we know that there's a huge connection between subconscious and the body, but I think we don't often um, talk, uh, we don't talk enough about this wisdom that the body can really show when you start putting some attention to it. So, anyway, point number one was the awareness. We moved to point number two, which was rebuilding our nervous system. And the third one is I did a huge work to work. Sorry, it's a repetition, but I did a work on my power, my inner power, and my ability that I could hold everything. So once my body started to feel more safe, once I had this awareness, I did this work of rewiring, like literally mind, body, and soul to understand that I can hold more. So receiving now for me is, let's say, 90% of receiving for me now is joy. But I know that if there is a 10% that it's still a bit of negative emotions or a little bit of stress or a little bit of mixed emotions, I can hold it as well. And that makes me feel way more open to receive because I know I can hold more. And I heard this sentence the other day from a girl that she was saying that for her the healing was not being perfect, but it was, let's say, like the healing journey was not about being perfect. It was just about just being able to hold all the emotions. So um I loved to hear that sentence because it was really what I was feeling. Like somehow I worked on my power and I worked on all the times in my life where I was able to hold so many emotions and alchemize them and like transmute them into something else. And now I'm doing the same with receiving. I think whenever I know that there's a little stickiness that is going to be associated with receiving something, maybe a difficult conversation that I need to have because I received something, but then I don't want to spend it in something that is not aligned. And maybe there's going to be a little bit of tension around that. I know that because I've done this work of, okay, I can hold that level of discomfort. I know that just being conscious of that, it's kind of like increased the level of joy that I feel with receiving, and it kind of like lowered the negative emotions associated with receiving. So I just went from, I think, a bit of a 50-50, like I'm happy, but oh my God, it's gonna trigger this and that, to I think almost a 90, hopefully 100% one day, but a 90% of it feels so good to receive this. And yeah, maybe there's a little bit of, I don't know what, but I can hold it and I can hold 100%. So I hope this is gonna also help you to see that you're more powerful than you think in holding those emotions, because we've done this so many times in our lives. And anyway, as a business owner, I'm sure that you've grown a lot. It's the biggest self-development journey we can go on. And I'm sure that there were so many times in your business that you had to hold things you were not like ready to, but you still did it. So you can remind yourself of that. The fourth thing I wanted to talk about is understand that receiving is really circulating money and being a conduit for abundance. So one little exercise that I was doing is I was envisioning abundance as a circle. And for me, like real abundance meant like for that circle to be completed. And let's say if I draw like just one part of the circle, which is the giving part, but I don't close the circle with the receiving, it means we're not really a conduit for abundance. And the same way you wish your family, your friends, your clients this level of abundance. Um, if we think of it in terms of like really a circle and being a conduit, it's way easier for us to allow the abundance in because we know we're part of that circle. And until we don't flow with it, until we don't really uh, increase the way we receive, we're not increasing the flow of money because it's based on two components. So I'm now thinking like I know that more abundance in my life is just made of two parts, and I want to expand the receiving so I can expand the giving. And maybe you've heard of this before, but I just wanted to give this visual of the circle because even when I did my journaling on how much money was going in, going out, just envisioning this circle, I was like, yeah, I'm circulating money and I'm just part of that flow. So I'm going to increase the flow and I'm going to increase my openness to receive so I can hold more. Um, then when I want to talk about in reframing this relationship that we have with receiving, um, I don't know if this is going to apply to all of you, but I did wanted to share it because, again, it has made a lot of changes in my life. I It's not that I realized because I knew it, I just experienced it. So, what I experienced is the more I was doing things in alignment, the more my brain and body were open to receive. So, when I really started to do things that I love in my life, big and small, I noticed that it increased my sense of worth, which I don't know if that makes a lot of logical sense because I think our worth shouldn't be tied to what we are doing. But somehow for me, it's not about the doing actually, but it's about when I acted in alignment, it's like I felt like closer to my authentic version, and getting close to my authentic version, my authentic expression, it made me um I felt more worthy of receiving because I think that's why I'm saying I'm not sure that it's going to apply to all of you. So if it resonates, great. If not, just leave it. But I felt part of my brain was like, had this feeling of I'm doing not my 100%, like I'm giving it all. I'm giving like my 400%. So I don't know why I shouldn't be receiving in return. And I think in the past, I was doing things I love, but I wasn't fully being myself. And I think there was this little voice inside of me that was like, yeah, I'm worthy of receiving because blah, blah, blah. Like it was a very logical, like, um, way of thinking. I was associating that maybe like how we call it, like the wounded masculine energy of trying to think logically. I'm doing all the things, so I don't see why I wouldn't receive. And now it's more just an inner knowing, like a very, very strong inner knowing that because I'm more in alignment, not saying I'm like perfect, but because because I feel so in alignment with what I'm doing and I'm giving it all to step into alignment, my sense of worth just increased and my openness to receive just went from it just skyrocketed. And I feel like I don't even have to justify it. Like the only just by being in alignment, I feel like I don't need to r- write sorry, I wanted to say like I don't need to explain it like from a rational standpoint to my mind. I don't need to justify to myself like why I would be worthy of receiving. So um maybe just, I don't know, play with that idea and see if it resonates. But I feel a sense of ease that comes from being in alignment. And I feel it's easier for me to open up now to abundance because I don't know, internally, I just feel like I've known this for a while. I've known this, I've known that being me is the biggest service that I can do for to myself and to others. But now I'm experiencing it because I'm actually doing it. I think I wasn't fully doing it in the past. But now that I'm fully committed to being myself and doing what I feel is aligned, like radically, I feel like my whole energetic body is like, why wouldn't we receive? It's like, that's the key. That's the formula. And it's actually working. Like there's so many things arriving in my life, opportunities, blessings. I'm like, this is easy. And it used to trigger me so fucking much because I used to not only work a lot, but I used to put a lot of effort into this work of receiving. I used to try hard to improve my relationship with receiving. And I don't know if it was good or bad, but I was like, ugh, I'm putting in the work. I'm doing all this shadow work and then this unconscious work, and I'm working hard. And my actions felt hard. My shadow work felt heavy. And I think part of it was necessary. Not the hard part, but like the things I've mentioned before about being more aware, nervous system regulation. I think the work needed to be done. It just didn't need to be hard, but I was like just releasing all these patterns of like working hard that I had from my childhood. But yeah, the moment I just stepped into alignment, yeah, it's like I don't know how to explain it, and I don't want to like repeat myself, but I felt a whole yes, a whole response of yeah, of course you deserve more, of course you're worthy, and you're just being in alignment. That was your only job from the beginning. And I was like, okay. So anyway, and maybe just one little thing, like also because I feel in alignment, I feel it's way easier to hold like this 10% I was thinking talking about earlier about the stickiness of the receiving, like the stress that might come with receiving money, dealing with a business, dealing with clients, dealing with orders. I feel that this remaining stickiness, I am even able to hold it because I'm like, if I'm in alignment, yes, I'm gonna have to deal with those things, but like my capacity to hold it, it's like, yeah, I'm made for that. I'm made to learn how to handle it. I'm made to maybe be a little bit stressed, but this is the journey. Like I'm designed to hold it. So anyway, I wanted to mention this point about alignment in case it works, and just my little notes to close out the episode. Yeah, one last thing I wanted to say, because again, sounds simple but so important. Receiving to me now is not just receiving material abundance. And when I think you know that receiving is also receiving love, receiving connections, receiving joy, receiving food, receiving, I don't know, all the non-material things, not food, but all the rest. Like emotional, it's not just material, it's also emotional fulfillment. But I wanted to repeat that because I've noticed that since I've improved my relationship with receiving, I see more opportunities for me to receive. I notice in my daily life that it's not just the money that is coming in, and it's like the ideas are flowing and like rushing. And whenever I need something, I just see an email that talks exactly about that subject. It's like my receiving container not only has amplified, it's more grounded, but also I'm more connected in the sense that I'm receiving information. Like I'm receiving ideas. Mm, I'm like, the same way you feel like a conduit of money. I feel I'm being a conduit of information and um, creative ideas and imagination. And yeah, a lot of imagination. I feel like my imagination um, is way more alive, is way more playful. Um, so I also want you to keep that in mind, because when you think like, I'm going to improve my relationship with receiving, the brain, as always, is going to look for evidence how much money went in, went out. And when you really start to think like, I'm doing this work not only to receive material things, but I'm doing this receiving work because I want to receive so much from people, from the universe, from um my higher self, whatever you want to call it. Like, you're gonna be a channel for one, like a conduit, if the word channel doesn't really resonate, but you're gonna be like a container to receive so much more than you think, in terms of guidance. That was the word I was looking for. Guidance and intuition. So don't look just for the evidence of material things. Start seeing how your brain is way more open to just receiving guidance, receiving intuition, receiving a kind word for someone that will uplift you. Um, the exact information you were seeking to finalize your business. Like, you're gonna receive a lot, and you're gonna receive in different shapes and forms that you initially thought of. So I think it's really a beautiful sensation to experience. Yeah, I think this is all I wanted to share. I really hope you enjoy this episode. I I know that some of the concept might seem simple with receiving, but that's why I wanted to share. I always like to share like detailed experience of how things play out in my life, um, because I think it's so helpful to connect like the dots and not just stay in the realm of ideas. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what came up, how you felt about this episode. I'm so curious. And yeah, I wish you the best day. I wish you so much joy, and I'm cheering you on. I know that you can receive so much more. So I hope this episode somehow um, gave you some tools to upgrade your relationship with receiving. Have a great day, and I see you in another episode, in the next episode. Let's see if I come up with something with number 6. But anyway, we'll see. Have a great day. Bye.